Unveiling the Spiritual Path. Chapter 7. Doorway to a Higher Realm. As the burning ground does its work and the dross of the personality turns to ash, it is replaced in the life of the disciple by an expanding field of wisdom distilled from experience. The progressively refined personality is becoming a worthy instrument for the self that has engineered the journey to this point of deliverance. What began as a dim spark in the mists of time, advancing through countless cycles of evolution, is evolving into a steady flame that can light the way for others. This is the moment when the soul is recognized as an embodiment of Christ consciousness. Thus far, at every step of the journey, the observing soul registers incremental signs of the transformation of consciousness, the opening of the heart to enfold more of life in its embrace, an increasing willingness to sacrifice personal desires and ambitions for a higher good, a realization of growing proximity to the realm of spirit. There comes a time when this progress is externalized. The radiance of the soul, the higher self, becomes observable in the world. The Master Jesus in Palestine radiated a quality of spiritual love and wisdom that was unmistakably of divine origin, along with a supernatural capacity to heal and restore the well-being of those who approached him, plus the courage to stand in truth like a pillar of fire. As the soul infuses its outer vehicle and bursts forth in its own light, reflections of these qualities begin to emerge. Undeviating expressions of wisdom and love, recognizable by others, mark the disciple who is becoming initiated into the spiritual hierarchy. Such individuals have demonstrably built the inner bridge of consciousness from the human realm to the spiritual, with assistance from elders in the higher realm. The so-called Bridge of Light is a living stream of electric energy that flows from one party to another, creating an invisible line of communication. To establish the flow between these different levels of consciousness requires adjustments on both sides of the bridge. The less evolved being must be able to raise the vibrational frequency of their etheric body of light, and the more evolved being must temporarily lower their vibrational frequency to find a stable meeting ground. The term vibrational frequency has become part of the vocabulary of contemporary seekers, along with the word resonance. The common usage of these words reflects an embryonic awareness of the subtle dimensions of life. Yet the relationship between consciousness and vibrational frequency remains a mystery. The term frequency derives from the realm of physical science, where electricity is measured by the amps it displays, the quantities of energy that pass through an electric current. In physical science, it is assumed that electric energy flows from a physical source. In spiritual science, it is understood that the source is of divine origin. The nature of a current or a stream is movement and flow. Energy flows from one point to another. In the case of electricity, the current can be regulated by raising or lowering the voltage or power from one velocity to another. When electricity takes the form of sound, it releases vibrations that are audible. The range of sound vibrations can be heard across a broad spectrum, from the softest to the loudest notes. The sensitive music listener can actually feel the difference in sound vibrating in the tissues of the physical body, with low and high notes stirring different sensations. So it is with spiritual light. As the aspirant becomes a consecrated disciple, a door opens to the next kingdom of earth's life, where the masters of wisdom dwell. What opens the door is the quality of light emanated by the disciple. The soul's light attracts the attention of an illumined being within the spiritual hierarchy. When the brightness of that light indicates the disciple's ability to remain upon the narrow, razor-edged path, regardless of the severity of the inevitable tests and trials, such a human being becomes a candidate for entering the higher kingdom, and no effort is spared to bring this about. The principal means of interaction between members of the spiritual and human realms is telepathy. The sender of telepathic impressions, dwelling in an invisible realm, must develop the means of communicating with a person living in the material, physical world. This is where the work of achieving resonance begins. The sender, within the hierarchy of light, will aid the recipient to walk the path to the point where resonant vibrational frequencies will enable the recipient to correctly hear the messages being sent. It can take many lifetimes for a human being to achieve this degree of resonance. The aspirant, the one who aspires to discover higher truth, is cast into a world of unfamiliar concepts and practices geared to invisible realities, whose application requires diligence and discipline. The disciple, the one who consciously decides to commit his or her life to the path of return, engages in a process that continues until the moment when the glow of the soul's light is bright enough to attract a teacher and guide from the higher realms. We might liken this process to what occurs in the life of a child who shows unusual promise as a musician. At first, such a child will likely take music lessons from someone in the local neighbourhood. As the student advances and the level of potential is revealed, parents or guardians may look for a teacher of higher calibre who lives further away. The student who aspires to become a professional musician and makes commitment to that goal will willingly adhere to the requisite disciplines. As the musical capacity increases, a teacher is found who can help burnish the talent to a level of mastery and readiness to appear on a concert stage. The seeker likewise advances through stages of growth to reveal the soul's inherent capacity. In the beginning, treading the path depends upon personal motivation to discover a reliable source of higher truth and apply that truth to life. It progresses with persistence in developing regular practices and disciplines, and a conscious willingness to cleanse the outer vehicle, thus transforming the suffering of the burning ground into a field for burnishing the light of wisdom. However, from the very start of the search for light, beyond the limits of the concrete world, the higher self begins to make its presence felt. This long-dormant aspect of self begins to speak to the personality and guide its steps towards greater light through silent cues and signs. Although the source of this guidance is not consciously recognized, the individual will think in terms of having good ideas and experiencing helpful encounters out of the blue. Step by step, in diverse ways, the awakening soul learns to recognize the existence of higher worlds. One of the most dramatic of these ways is the occurrence of synchronicities. seeming coincidences that have significance only for the individual. Something appears visibly in the outer world that reflects an idea or thought in the person's mind. In recent times, it has become more common for people to recognize these meaningful coincidences and to sense that a benevolent force is behind them. The phenomenon of synchronicity is a means by which human consciousness is made aware of the mysterious subtle forces that order the universe. Through such experiences, occurring in an infinite variety of ways and forms, the soul learns to pay attention to subtle signs and symbols that appear by inscrutable means. A physical plane event occurs that has meaning only in the inner life of an individual. A passage in a book appears just as a question about the topic enters the seeker's mind, or as the ancient saying holds, the teacher appears when the student is ready. Such experiences may at first be seen as coincidental, but on closer examination, the individual will perceive the work of mysterious higher forces that are drawing the attention of the soul to the inner worlds. In due time, as the path continues to unfold, through a steady commitment to finding and embodying the light, inner teachers will make their presence known. Their appearance to a disciple is an act of recognition on the part of these higher beings of the individual's progress on the path. The intensifying light of the individual soul attracts a greater light in the form of teachers who will guide the disciple through the higher stages of the path that lead towards mastery of the human condition. Spiritual telepathy, which makes this possible, arises from the synchronization of vibratory frequencies between a disciple and a master of wisdom. Members of the spiritual hierarchy hold responsibility for different aspects of the plan of evolution and are ever on the lookout for disciples who have the capacity to cooperate in working out an aspect of the plan. The substance of the mechanism that makes this communication possible is light. Light is carried on waves of different frequencies, set in motion by specific vibrations. Sunlight has its own frequency, as does the light of an electric bulb. The light of the sun is fueled by highly charged energies that pass through its rays. The light of an electric bulb is charged by currents passing through a cord when a switch is turned on. These forms of light are visible to human beings, but the light spectrum continues into realms of subtlety and refinement, invisible and unknown to the human race. In these higher realms, waves or currents of light are set off by the vibratory power of conscious thought. When telepathic rapport is established between a master in the spiritual realm and a disciple in the human realm, thoughts charged with subtle energy and substance by the master are directed to disciples prepared to receive them. This method of communication is known as spiritual impression. Information is impressed upon human minds by divinized beings. What makes this possible is that everything existing in our world is a manifestation of consciousness and energy. Light is a form of energy that penetrates multiple dimensions of Earth's life until it is blocked by the density of form. What occurs on the spiritual path is a raising of the vibrations of the human form, making it increasingly penetrable by light of greater refinement. The soul, consciousness itself, cannot shine its light through a dense form. But as the higher self awakens and moves into the foreground of an individual's awareness, its presence impels change in the personality life that allow its fuller expression. The growing light of the soul transmutes the substance of atoms and cells in the physical body and makes the chakras of the vital etheric body more sensitive to refined expressions of sound, light, and color. This increasing sensitivity reduces barriers to the subtler realms of Earth, wherein the future of humanity lies.